If you plant a seed of wheat, it grows. But Crocus sativus, the flower that produces saffron, plays by a completely different set of biological rules. It's a triploid genetic anomaly, meaning its cells have 3 sets of chromosomes instead of 2. This genetic quirk makes the plant sterile. It is completely incapable of producing seeds to reproduce on its own. For saffron to exist at all, human beings have to intervene. To grow a new crop, agricultural laborers must manually dig up the underground storage organs, called corms, physically divide them, and replant them in well-drained soil. The math behind this process is punishing. To yield a single kilogram of the dried spice, you need between 150,000 and 160,000 individual flowers. And the biological clock is always ticking. Saffron only blooms during a narrow 3-week window in autumn. Each flower must be plucked at the break of dawn. If they sit in the midday sun, the volatile oils within the stigmas degrade, and the commercial value of the harvest evaporates. Because the structure of the crocus makes mechanical harvesting impossible, its production remains locked in an ancient, labor-intensive rhythm. It is a crop that refuses to be industrialized, ensuring that every gram of saffron represents thousands of hours of manual human effort. In the Roman Empire, consumption was a high-stakes social performance. For the patrician class, acquiring rare imported materials established political dominance and signaled a person's rank within the social hierarchy. During his triumphant return to the city, Emperor Nero turned this logic into a spectacle. He ordered the main avenues of the capital to be heavily sprinkled with golden saffron threads before he arrived. This wasn't just a display of wealth, it was a performance of waste. Nero was taking a substance that represented a staggering accumulation of human labor and literally trampling it into the dirt to show that his resources were effectively boundless. By this point, the Roman elite were consuming the spice on an unprecedented scale, using it in baths, infusing at banquets, and wearing extravagant perfumes, even though the empire didn't actually own the vast majority of the lands where it was grown. This situation created a strange economic tension. Rome had developed a total obsession with a biologically unscalable flower, yet they relied on distant, often hostile territories to supply it. Saffron farms were scattered across the ancient world, with some of the largest fields located deep within the rival Sassanid Persian Empire. Rome couldn't simply seize the production. Instead, the empire focused on the arteries of trade. By establishing military and naval dominance over the Mediterranean and the Red Sea, Rome ensured that high-volume luxury goods from the east had only one reliable path to the market. To manage this flow, Emperor Domitian built the Horia Piperiharia, a massive, fireproof state warehouse near the Roman Forum. This facility served as the heavily fortified central nervous system for the entire spice trade in the capital. We know this facility was an economic fortress because of the physician Galen. He rented space within the complex to store his irreplaceable medical texts, and he noted that the warehouse was strictly controlled and guarded by the elite imperial guard. By 301, Emperor Diocletian capped Arabian saffron at 2,000 denarii per Roman pound, enforced by the death penalty. Premium black pepper was capped at 800 denarii, and ginger at 250. Saffron was in a tier of its own. This logistical funnel allowed the empire to dictate the economics of the trade within its own borders. Even without owning a single field in Persia, the Roman state could manage the price and availability of the world's most expensive spice. The state worked so hard to control this flower because its multi-sensory chemical triad made it irreplaceable for the ruling class. Saffron's color comes from crocin, a rare pigment that is highly water-soluble. Unlike most ancient dyes, it binds permanently to wool and silk without the need for toxic additives, producing a luminous golden hue that cheaper imitations like turmeric couldn't match. Then there is the aroma. During the drying process, the plant produces saffronal, a volatile compound with an incredibly low detection threshold. Even a tiny amount of saffron water could perfume the air of an entire theater. Because this specific chemical makeup was impossible to counterfeit, saffron became the gold standard of luxury. Rome hoarded it because it was a sensory experience that money could buy, but chemistry couldn't fake. The Roman elite integrated these chemicals into the very fabric of state life. High-ranking patrician women wore bridal veils dyed with premium saffron, known as the flammeum. The deep yellow-orange dye was meant to make the bride resemble a flickering candle flame, a visual intended to ward off malevolent spirits and invoke fertility during the merging of two powerful dynasties. In the public sphere, organizers used a practice called sparciones. They misted highly pressurized saffron-infused liquid over the crowds in the massive amphitheaters. This fragrant mist simultaneously cooled the stifling heat and masked the smell of blood and unwashed bodies in the arenas, creating an artificial environment where even the air was a product of imperial wealth. These spectacles linked the scent of the crocus to the reach of the state. When a citizen smelled saffron, they were experiencing the emperor's ability to command resources from the furthest corners of the known world. When the Western Roman Empire eventually collapsed, the state-sponsored trade networks shattered. The Horia Piperaria fell into ruin, and the subsidized flow of luxuries to the capital's bathhouses and theaters stopped. But while the empire vanished, the flower survived. Subsequent Islamic and European agriculturalists meticulously preserved the crop, eventually expanding its cultivation into the fields of Spain and beyond. Despite 3 millennia of advancement, the fundamental process of the harvest hasn't changed. We still cannot automate the extraction of the stigmas. It still requires a human being to pick the flower at dawn. Because that labor cost is fixed by biology, saffron continues to command prices that rival precious metals on modern exchanges. It remains one of the few commodities that refuses to be democratized. Rome's legacy isn't that they owned the saffron crop, but that they understood how to manage the path from the field to the citizen. They proved that power isn't just about owning the land, it's about controlling the choke point